welcome everybody, and thank you so much again for attending. My name is Nikki Christensen, and I've been in the industry for a little over 20 years. I've worked as a coordinator, a CRA, a project manager, director, and most recently as a global auditor for quality assurance, still doing quite a bit of global project management as well, and then a bit of training. We have our learning objectives up, but I just wanted to talk about some of the references I provided. So one of them is the EMA reflection paper. And again, this is specifically on that concept of risk-based monitoring, which we'll talk about, but detecting risk signals is more than just the monitoring piece. It's really that proactive planning. And if you look just at the title of this document, if you're not familiar with it, or even if you've read it, to just think about what this means, risk-based quality management. And it's really, again, focusing on a very proactive approach in what we do. So doing that risk assessment for gathering information, what do we need to know, and risk control, and as you noted, really knowing how to identify what are the threshold values, how do we mitigate those risks, what are our quality tolerance limits. And if we wait until after our program is launched, we're not doing appropriate planning. So this paper, the EMA reflection paper, is really about having quality protocols and doing that quality planning up front. Then the other document I provided for reference is the FDA guidance document on risk-based monitoring. And really the intent of this document is that there isn't one approach to every study, and that one of the take-home messages that I have from all of these different papers, including the PMDA reflection paper from Japan on the same topic, is that with the wealth of electronic resources available and the wealth of information we now have from having done clinical trials and having information on expected ranges of deviations, knowing roughly how many adverse events we should have, what number of SAEs we would anticipate in a particular population, why can't we be better about proactively identifying when we may go outside those parameters? And that's really, again, where this concept is going. So I provided both of these documents to you, again, just as a reference for what is the regulatory interpretation for what we should be doing for risk management. And then some of the other tools I'll touch on a little bit more as we go through class, but you'll have a sample risk identification questionnaire, a risk assessment worksheet, and we'll talk a little bit here about risk scores. And then I have just sort of a quick questionnaire or sample document to use when you start establishing your thresholds and what should be triggering a modification of monitoring or management. So that's really part of it is we can't just identify the problems. We actually have to have parameters in place for how we're going to manage them as we approach those threshold values or as we surpass them. What is our escalation plan? And within the industry, one of the areas I see us fall short is that we're very good at identifying risk with enrollment, for example. And if we contract with CROs, that's often one of the things that sponsors and CROs talk about is, well, what are the risks you identify? And many of those risks, again, are going to be upfront in the startup. And we often fall short in identifying long-term risks to our program. So today's class will be focusing on quality risk management and regulatory expectations based on industry and international guidance, really focusing again on the two documents that I've showed you, the EMA reflection paper and FDA guidance. We'll discuss proactive quality management techniques through signal detection and training for operational and scientific management of clinical trials. And I've broken it out into these two concepts, operational and scientific. Because, again, one of the challenges we face is we often work in silos in our organizations. We have really our operational piece, we have the monitors, we have the coordinators, we have the hands-on execution of the day-to-day activities of a trial. And we don't always communicate back with the scientific pieces of that. So identifying what are the medical risk factors, what types of values would be critical for us to better manage or to escalate or provide immediate notification on. Occasionally we will call those out, for example, adverse events of special interest, but really having a solid risk plan is going beyond just those extremes or beyond just those highlighted factors. It's really looking at, again, proactively, when we may approach any type of risk in a protocol. So, for example, we know that there's going to be errors. We know we may have deviations. But how many deviations does it start to become a concern? And what type of deviations are a concern? So it's really marrying that metrics piece with the day-to-day tasks. So the statisticians, the medical monitors, the personnel who are really reviewing the data with the day-to-day activities. And we'll also identify key risk factors, thresholds and issues in protocols, reports, and data listing. And I won't specifically identify what they are because we have no way of knowing until we have a specific study. But again, how do we go about identifying them? It's the theory behind the process. And we'll also discuss signal detection techniques and preventative measures through hands-on application.